All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And first off, let me say welcome to today's webinar. And our topic is, how to break out of the fear that holds you back and how you can build the business of your dreams. If you've ever wanted more for your life and for your business, but you feel like fear has had you paralyzed or blocked, then you are definitely in the right place today. By the time we're finished with this web session, you're going to know and understand what the top 3 fears that affect us all entrepreneurs, all business people. These 3 fears affect all of us. And we're also going to not just talk about the fears, but we're going to talk about some real tactics that you can use, and you can use them right away to help you manage fear and even actually overcome them. My name is Janice Summers, and I'm going to be your guide today. Now, just like many others out there, I let my fears and insecurities rule my actions for many years, too many. But then I learned how to identify what they really were and how to manage them so they wouldn't rule me. I could actually manage them. I have been a successful entrepreneur for almost a decade now, and I can tell you that having this knowledge has gotten me through many, many struggles in business. And you're going to find you're going to go through struggles, and that's okay. You kind of want to, because through struggles, we get stronger. Through adversity, we become stronger. And that's true in business and in life. And these tactics that I'm going to talk about in this web session, I actually still use them to this day. So I know how important these skills are. And because I know how important they are for me, I wanted to be able to share them with you so that you could take advantage of them in building your business. I want you to be able to build the business of your dreams and make that a reality without having fears hold you down or push you back. So imagine how it would feel for you if you could actually leap forward in your business without crumbling. What would it feel like if you could have the ability to calmly and with great confidence build your dream business? Just step into it with confidence and with ease. What would it be worth to you if you could create that life that you desire without holding back? My goal is to help get you there. So who can remember the first time? I'm going to ask everybody a question here. Who can remember the first time that you decided that you were going to go for it? That first time you thought, hey, I don't have to settle. I can actually have the life I desire. I'm going to go for it. Where were you? Do you remember how it felt? I still remember. I remember the first time I realized that my life could be more, that it could be what I wanted to create and not something that was assigned to me or not something that somebody else felt I should have. I had a leap in my heart, a catch in my breath. I actually had a rush of adrenaline. For me, life seemed limitless, and all I could see were endless possibilities. I had such a feeling of boundless joy and bliss at that time. And then it happens. Now, you may know if you've been in business for a little while, you shared your idea with somebody else. We all do it. We all want to share our hopes and our dreams. Why not? We're so excited. And we want to tell everybody what we're planning on doing and how we're going to conquer the world. So maybe you picked a close friend, or maybe it was a family member. But whoever it was that you chose to talk with to share your dreams, it was probably somebody who was close to you, somebody who you trusted, someone whose opinion you valued. And I'm sure when you got together with them, you were so excited that you could hardly stand it. You were jumbling your words, possibly fumbling all over them, trying to explain what you were going to do and how it was going to just impact the world, and you were going to make a difference for yourself. It was probably electrifying. But then something odd happened. You actually didn't get the response you had thought you were going to get. The reaction, maybe it was a little lackluster, or maybe it was just a little dismissive. And in worst case, you may have gotten one of those very unsupportive responses from whoever you were talking to. Now, I'm sure I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, perhaps in their mind that they were looking out for you. And I'm sure they had the best of intentions when they started to point out to you that you had no experience, that maybe you were in over your head, or if you had told them about an MLM, I mean, this is notorious, but usually if you get into network marketing, the number one thing anyone's going to say to you is they're going to tell you it's a scheme, it's a scam, it's a pyramid, that you were taken advantage of. That's the number one resistance response you're going to get from friends and family. And it's been that way for years. I can remember the very first MLM I ever signed on to was, 30 years ago. And I got the same response from my friends and family. They're trying, from their perspective, they're trying to help you see the light before you're in too deep and you can't be saved. But what happened for you is that you ended up feeling lost and alone and deep in a forest. Suddenly, you're Little Red Riding Hood, and they're the big bad wolf coming to devour you. You're all excited on your way to Granny's house. You've got this great thing and this basket full of treats, but this person's just shredded those dreams. Then perhaps the reality of what it may mean for you starts to set in. What's going to be required of you starts to take a hold of you. You might get a leap in your heart, and you might get a catch in your breath, and you even get a rush of adrenaline, but the overall feeling is far from being blissful. This is where fear starts to creep in. So you're going to get some of those same visceral responses, but a very different thing, because you're actually feeling defeated and alone and in a very scary, dark place. You start to doubt yourself, perhaps. You start to question your abilities. You start to talk yourself out of moving forward. What if you fail? What if you lose your friends and family? What will you have to give up in order to move forward? What did you get yourself into? So let's stop for a minute. This is the time you need to kind of stop, take a deep breath, a really deep cleansing breath. And before you go chucking it all in and going back to a life of complacency, stop. Let's take a hard look at what is real and what is dramatized because of fear. It's time for you to get a little perspective in order to overcome the fear that's growing in you so that you can actually build your business, that you can build the business of your dreams. Now, there's a couple of things I want to get straight here, and I want to kind of share a couple of truths with you before we get going. And the number one truth is you're never going to eliminate fear. Fear will be there. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to rule you. Now, no matter how powerful, how rich, how grand your life becomes, how big and ginormous you become, you're never going to get rid of fear. And in fact, some people, the more powerful they become, the more fearful they get. Now, why do you think that might be? That's because they never learned to manage their relationship with that fear. If you learn to manage your relationship, you actually look forward to a little fear, because a lot of us who've been tenured, who've been veterans in entrepreneurship can tell you that little catch in your breath, that little fear factor is not a bad thing, because we know that if we can push ourselves through, if we can learn to manage that fear and work through it, that we're going to come through even stronger. And fear sometimes tells us we're on the precipice of a major breakthrough. So one of two things is going to happen to everybody out there. Everybody, big and small, is either you're going to be run by your emotions, or your emotions are going to be run by you. You're going to take charge. So fear, like any other emotion out there, does require some managing. Now, the second truth I want to share with you is that your vision, your dream of what you want to do, that dream business that you want to build, that is yours and yours alone. Not everyone's going to understand. Not everyone's going to get on board. No matter how eloquent you describe it or how convincing you can be, not everybody's going to understand your vision and what it is you want to do. That's for you. That's what you're here for. Because never in the history and never again in the history to come will there ever be another you. You are unique. And when you're sharing your vision with somebody, or your dream, your aspiration, your hope, they're listening from their perspective. So they have their own fears and their own insecurities that are going to influence their response to you. So it's okay to share with people. It's great to share with people, but don't be ruled by their reaction to what your plans are. Even though you might respect them a lot, and it's okay to respect them. It's okay to listen to their input, but you are in charge and it's your vision. Okay? So let's get going on the top 3 fears. Let me just take a look here and see if anyone's got any questions. Looks like we're okay. All right. So the top 3 fears. These are the number ones. I believe, for me personally, I think that every other fear out there that anyone can throw at you can be condensed into one of these 3. And I could probably condense these down even further. But I think these 3 things are great talking points. In one, the desire for predictability, right? We like to have consistency. We like to have some predictability. And that's the counter to the fear of change. Our human side craves interaction with others. And our sense of well-being is tied to our interaction with others and that feeling of being accepted and appreciated. So that's the counter to the fear of isolation, because if you're isolated, you're not going to receive that. Our desire to succeed in life. I don't think I've ever met anyone who hasn't wanted to be successful in life. That's the counter to our fear of failure. And the fear of failure is a very interesting one. So it'll be great when we start delving deeper into it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to delve into these top 3 fears. And we're going to talk about where they might have their roots. Now, I have some ideas that I'm going to share with you on the roots of these fears. But if you explored your life and your psyche, you may find that there's some other roots that I haven't uncovered. And that's okay. And I encourage you to do that. In order to manage emotions and manage the fears, you've got to be able to name it. And that's the first step in any process, because it's hard to resolve or manage an issue if you don't know how to identify it or know it by name. So this will help shed some light on things. So we're also going to talk about some strategic actions that you can take to help manage them for yourself. Now, it's not an all-inclusive list, but there's some strategies that you can apply. And I'm going to share those with you. So let's get started on the first one. And the first one is the unknown, our fear of change. Now, some people fear change the most because they have no concept of what's coming. You don't know what's on the other side. You don't know what you don't know. And that's what change says to us, is because if things change, it's no longer going to stay the same. I know the same. I know what's going on now. But the truth is, nothing ever stays the same. Change really is inevitable. It happens every moment. Even decay happens every moment. So either you're going to learn to manage this fear of the unknown and manage this fear of change so that you can take advantage of it, or you will become a victim due to inaction. So change is going to happen. It's much better to take an active role in managing it. So some of the root causes of this fear really does come down to our comfort zone. And I mean, and it is called comfort for a very good reason. It's where we feel safe. Things are predictable. It's a known environment. We're wrapped in the cocoon. A follows B follows C. There's a natural order of things. We get this. We know this. If everything stays the same, if status quo is the rule. Once you take comfort away, there's chaos. We have no idea. So chaos reigns. We don't know how our roles are going to play out, what we're supposed to do, and what the order of things is going to be, and what our prescribed action should be. We don't know how to act. So there's some self-doubt. Do we know that we're going to be equipped when change happens? Do we know if we're going to fit in, how we're going to fit in, how others are going to fit in? There's a lot of self-doubt with this because we're not sure if we have the adaptability. Now, the other thing is, am I enough? I mean, this is a good one. You know, people wonder, am I going to be equipped in this new change? When change happens, am I going to be equipped in that new environment? Do I have enough in me to manage it? So now let's talk about some tactics that can help you overcome these fears and help you manage change. So the first thing is create some intentional change. I mean, seriously, just figure out how you can make something completely different. You know, and it could be something silly, but find things to intentionally change. If you're habituated, I can be a little obsessive compulsive, honestly, and I get very much into habits. I intentionally have to change things so that I don't get so habituated, so that I am used to change, so that I can think on my feet, that I can respond in an unpredictable environment. That agility is really important to your survival and to your long-term health of your business. So create change intentionally. Don't wait for things to happen. Go make something happen. The other thing is change a little at a time, right? You don't have to move out of state or build a business of something you're completely unfamiliar with, you know, a product or a service that you know nothing about. Get some training. I mean, that's, you know, the next point, but you can get some training before you go making big changes. Maybe change a little at a time. Maybe start out in a business where you have a little familiarity. Start out with a product that you might know something about. If it's something that you don't know, just get that training. A lot of companies offer training. If you're doing an MLM, there's lots of training for you. If you're making a product yourself, then find some trade associations where you can get some training, or hire others, hire coaches who might have more knowledge in an industry that can help tutor or mentor you, kind of like a journeyman to apprentice. Another thing that can help you in managing change is creating your unshakable vision. And I'm going to share some resources with you at the end. But creating your unshakable vision gives you your anchor so that you know what you're working towards. Even though that isn't a current reality, you can actually create a vision for a future state and live as if right now. And if you have that vision locked in and you're exercising that vision every day, then change you want to change, and you want to have change happen because you know what you need to do to get to where you want to be. And that's what having an unshakable vision gets you. It lets you have a roadmap of the unknown so that you can get to that end destination. Another thing is creating a deep understanding of who you are at your core. It's more than just a vague idea or, that surface little, yes, this is me. You will need to take some time and invest in you. I'm going to tell you that the role of an entrepreneur is different than anything you've ever experienced before. It's different than having a job. A job, they tell you what to do, and they tell you how to be, and they tell you how to act. As an entrepreneur, you are you. No one's going to tell you. There are no rules. You make those rules. So understanding who you are and what your real strengths are is going to be really critical for you, because nothing is going to push you more or stretch you more to reach your greatest, highest potential than being an entrepreneur. It's very exciting and it's fun, but it can be a little scary. But trust me, getting to that core of who you are, very critical. So the next fear I want to talk about is the fear of isolation. I keep doing that. The fear of isolation. Now, I like my alone time, probably more than the next person. I can be a little bit of a hermit, and I like to lock myself away. But I only want to do it when I want to, and I find I can't do it for very long because I literally crave time with others. I love interacting with others. I like being alone. I like my times of isolation. I'm an introverted person, believe it or not, but I need to get my people fix. And the fear of being isolated with no connection is a very real one. We're very social, and we need to connect with others in a meaningful way. And it is really just as important as the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. Human interaction and social acceptance is like food for us. It's food for your soul and for your mind. We actually have a physical craving for connection with people and to intertwine ourselves with others. It's very real. And that fear of losing that connection will affect your decision making and will affect your actions. And in fact, the dynamic of social pressure, in sociology, we refer to social mores and folkways, how we teach children how to react in our culture is from social pressure. This is how we show them and teach them how to be. Now, if we remove and isolate, you will crave that interaction. You will crave coming back, and you will do whatever you can to reconnect with people because that desire is deep in us. So social pain, when it's severed, is very real and actually has a physical sensation. So how do you, when you're in business, I will tell you that truthfully, your relationship with people is going to change, and your relationship with those that are close to you is going to change. So what do you do to help combat this or overcome this? Here's some tactics. In business, you can be a solopreneur, entrepreneur, but just because you're a solopreneur doesn't mean you have to go it alone. And you shouldn't go it alone. There are tons of ways that you can increase your social circle. And actually increasing your social network actually increases your brain power too. So do things like join trade groups or trade organizations or associations of some kind. Maybe it's related to the product or the service that you're involved in. Maybe, I mean, if you're in MLM, they're really big on conferences. And I know almost every profession out there has some kind of technical conference annually or biannually. And I think you should attend conferences because, again, that human interaction can really boost and recharge your battery. So joining a group or two is definitely a good way to go. Trade conferences, any form of conference, actually. You can do self-improvement conferences. You're going to get a lot of human high touch factor in self-improvement and working on yourself. And believe me, you are the biggest investment and the biggest asset your company has as an entrepreneur. So you will want to invest in yourself and becoming a better you. It's a really critical thing. Another thing you can do is joining a mastermind. Joining mastermind groups are fantastic. They're supportive. It's very beneficial. If you've never been in a mastermind, what they are groups of professionals that are like-minded, that come together, that help support each other in building their individual businesses. They can act like a board of directors or a trusted board of advisors for you. So find a mastermind to join. I have one called the Digital Sprinters Mastermind Group that meets once a month, and we have a Facebook group. So that's always an option if you want to join that. I'll share with you a link later on how you could do that. Another thing is knowing who you are, knowing your unique talents, knowing what you bring to the table, and being confident in those things. Because it's kind of like your bird call or your whale song. If you know what you're really good at and what your unique thing is, and you're wearing it, you're displaying it, then you'll pull people to you. You'll naturally pull people who either need that or are like that. So it's good to have a very solid understanding of who you are as a person and what your unique talents are. I have a workshop that actually is a foundational workshop. There's a 2-part workshop on knowing who you are, and the second part is actually delving into finding your talents. And those are self-paced workshops that you can do on your own time. It's kind of guided. They're a lot of fun. The best part is you can do it in cracks of time, because oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we might be working a job as we're building our business. So you want to be able to maximize your time as well. Another thing that's good to do is volunteer your time. Volunteer your time either with a charity that you're really impassioned about, or volunteer your time with an association or trade association that has to do with your profession or what you want to build your business in. It's a nice, relaxing kind of thing. You're giving back to the community, and it's definitely a great way to connect with people who have similar likes and interests to you. So that leaves us with the last fear, that leap of faith in the face of failure. I think failure is the number one thing that everybody talks about, is they fear failure the most. And that's unfortunately what stops a lot of people. It stops most people, or holds them back, or it causes them to give up, which is really a shame. Because taking the leap of faith and betting on your own abilities to adapt and rise up to whatever challenges is one of the best things you can do. Taking that leap of faith is one of the best things you can do for yourself. You will grow. You will get your wings. You will fly and you will soar. But it's not the first choice for many of us. We kind of like our comfort. We like things a little predictable. We don't want to fail. We want to succeed. I don't think I've ever met a person that said, hey, I wouldn't mind failing today. I think I'm going to go take a flying leap into nowhere, unprepared. I don't think anyone's ever said that to me. So let's look at the roots of our fear of failure. And actually, the fear of failure may go deeper than simply failing. I think, we fail, we get up. It's kind of like, you're not born knowing how to ice skate. You fall down a lot, and then you get up and you learn. But in failure, there's so many negative emotions that go with it. But the overwhelming, most powerful emotion that we attach to failure is the fear of shame. With shame comes shunning. With shunning is that isolation and the changed state of being on top to being on the bottom. So the shunning is actually a huge, great fear wrapped in the guise of just failing. It's so strong that actually people will self-sabotage. They'll sabotage themselves so that they can say, oh, see, I can't do it, right? They'll dip their toe in, oh, the water's cold, see, I can't go swimming. Just in order to avoid the possibility of feeling shame or feeling like an outcast. So we're all going to feel that fear of shame, that fear of failure, but the difference is in how you manage it. And we're going to get to that in a minute on some ideas on how you can manage that so you can move forward and not be afraid of failing. One of my one of the dreams that often reoccurs is the falling dream. And to me, that's like falling without a net. And that always seems like that's that failure dream. I wake up with a panic. Have you ever been in that situation? The other fear in failure is that your flaws are going to show. You're going to be naked. And everything that is wrong with you is going to show. That's a fear of failure, right? Because if you flop, then everybody's going to poke at you and say, oh, look, you're a failure and you're so flawed. So these are some of those fears. Now, examine your own situation. If you're feeling afraid of moving forward or something's got some fear around it, take a look yourself and uncover what that true meaning might be. Allow yourself to feel it, but not to wallow in it. Acknowledge it, but put it into a proper perspective. The more you exercise that, then the more likely you are to be able to go through it, and fairly easy. But the best way to do is the best way to do this is to examine it each and every time you're feeling fear about failure. Find out what it really means to you in that given situation. Simply failing is usually not the true issue because this failure bug has such deep roots. There's usually something else attached to it, something a little deeper. So I encourage you to investigate or find a coach. So let's talk about some tactics, right? So the first tactic to overcoming failure is to actually take action. If you are in action mode, then failure is going to happen, but you're acting on the next action item. You don't have time to worry about the failure or the flop. In my tenure of business, I tell you, there are times where I've done things that have been a failure. I wouldn't call them epic failures. Maybe others would, but I've had times where I failed at something, but I was so busy taking action on the next and getting better and improving that I didn't have time to just sit back and wallow in that failure or pay too much attention to it or allow it to dictate to me. Another thing that you can do is go out there and fail intentionally. Like find something that you're not good at and go fail intentionally. Like I am a horrible karaoke singer. So if I were to find something that I could fail at, I would go find a karaoke bar, preferably where everybody's a little drunk. So, they pay me no, never mind, and get up there and sing a song. I know I'm going to fail at it. But the key thing is at the wake of that failure, I'm going to experience those emotions. And then I'm going to realize, oh, I get over it. It's okay, because life goes on. There is a tomorrow, right? And you don't have to worry about those emotions taking over you. Another thing to do is, if your fear of failure is tied around skills that you don't have because you don't know something, oftentimes, and I'll tell you, with a lot of entrepreneurs, we never worry about if we don't know something. That's never something that really worries us, because we know that either we'll figure it out on the go, and if we can't figure it out, we'll find someone to help us. We'll either farm it out to somebody or we'll get some training. We'll figure this out, right? So that's another way. If your failure fear is tied to skills, then get some training. Sign up for some online courses or do some research, read some books, do something. Join a trade association, join a group. If you're afraid of bookkeeping and you don't know how to do it, go join a group. Oftentimes, cities and states, they'll have government offices that do some training around how to do your bookkeeping. Another way to really overcome the fear of failure is creating your unshakable vision. Again, if you have this vision and you know that there's going to be some failures along the way, and that's okay, because these failures are going to make you stronger, and you actually look at failures as really not failures anymore. To me, I don't like to use the word failure. I just look at it as that was an experiment that didn't work out as expected. So I will try a different tactic. But having an unshakable vision pushes you forward. It pulls you into itself because you know where you're going. Another thing is to know who you are. To really know who you are is where your confidence sits. Having that deep understanding and being grounded in who you are is going to help with your confidence, which means if you fail, you're not going to crumble and fall apart. It's okay. And then another way is to join a mastermind group, join a group of people, join a group of professionals. Hey, I can tell you, entrepreneurs will be honest and upfront in our mastermind groups and tell you where we failed. It doesn't mean you're going to fail the same way, but from learning about each other's failures, we learn life lessons. It's like learning parables, and we learn tactics and strategies to try and help make ourselves a little bit stronger, so that when we're faced with that failure, we remember, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so talking about it in the mastermind, and I remember what they did. So I'm going to try to adopt that same tactic, or maybe a similar tactic, to help me through this difficult time. So again, failure is really merely just a lesson learned. For those of us who've been in business for a while, they can all attest to that. So once you manage your fears, then there really is no limit to where you can take your dreams. There really isn't. Just like our little Red Riding Hood, you can see the forest is lush and green and bright. And that big bad wolf is not so big and bad. It's actually quite a lovely little dog, her pet. So they can trollop through the forest and create the business of their dreams. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look and see if you've got any questions for me today. Okay. I want to take the time to say thank you for tuning in. And honestly, I really believe that with the right support and the right training, there really is no limit to what you can achieve when you put your heart and soul and mind into it. So I know earlier I promised you some resources, and I'm also going to make this available for you, those of you in the live webinar. I'm going to go ahead and put these up for you. plus a little extra. So there's a free evaluation. So if you want a free 15-minute mini coaching session with me, that's how you can go ahead and book a session. So I'm also going to share with you the link for a self-paced workshop on how to create your unshakable vision. So you see that there. And the other workshop, part one of the workshop that we talked about earlier on how to create that rock solid foundation to build your dream. This is where you get to really discover and delve deeper into who you are, right? At your very core, because who you are is going to permeate everything you do in life and in business, especially in your business if you're an entrepreneur. And it doesn't matter what product or service, or if you're repping somebody else's product and service, you're never going to get away from you, ever. So there's nothing more important than you. All right, and the other thing I'd like to encourage you, if you want to join the Digital Sprinters Mastermind, there's the link to join. I also have shared this in the webinar area, so you'll see those opportunities presented for you. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I know we're just under an hour, but I want to kind of keep things tight and concise for you. Okay, again, I hope you'll join us on our next webinar. Next week, we have a new webinar. You can check our schedule. If you're in the community room, it'll show up in the community area what our next scheduled seminar, our web session is. So feel free to bookmark that into your calendar so you can join us again next week. And again, thank you for showing up. And yeah, thanks. Okay, bye everybody. All right, so we'll see you on the next one. Take care.